It's at the point where, to me, this is such an extreme bubble. If you're hanging in there to say, well, maybe it goes another 3 or 4 or 5 months, I'm like, get out. What my research does show 100% is that when a bubble like this bursts, you're going to see 40 to 50% crash in the first 2.5 months. The whole crash is going to be 80 to 90%. I'm estimating 87% for the S&P 500 and maybe slightly higher for the NASDAQ. I'm going to be shocked if we do not see a downturn. So it's as simple as this. We're in what I call the orgasmic phase of this bubble. It's just been building and building. People have to realize since 2007, late 2007, baby boomers peaked in their spending. We had a peak in the stock market in late 2007, and we went into the first deep recession since the early 80s and the early 30s, okay, the Great Depression. And that's when the Federal Reserve and central bank just went nuts. We have printed more money in the last year and a half or so than all of the printing before this, and even, since 2008 and 9. I mean, just years and years of this. So they keep doing exponentially more. So they're just desperately keeping this bubble going. And when you get in this phase, there's no way to say, oh, it's going to happen this day or this month. I mean, I was able to predict the 2007 top because I could precisely determine within several months when the baby boom was going to peak and momentum was going to turn down. But this is just, a bubble's going to go until it bursts. I'm now looking literally at more at chart patterns and things like that to see when this bubble looks like it's going to pop. And this looks like one of the times right here. And if you sit and wait for that, it'll happen before you're ready. And then you'll panic when that happens, and then it'll bounce and then you'll look like a double idiot. So this is very tricky. What I'm telling people, you have an economy that's now been stimulated for 12 years against fundamental demographics, against slowing even technology. All my cycles are slowing at this point, and most of them for years. It will not take much to break this bubble. That's what I'm saying. So just them saying we're going to have to taper and just starting, they're already cutting $30 billion a month in buying bonds, and they're supposed to finish tapering that and then raise interest rates by March. They just keep pumping it up, and the markets keep buying. I mean, at this stage, the market will only go down when something triggers that's big enough or the last person gets in the stock market.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
And, it's hard to tell which of those. I think what typically happens, this has been every top in this, boom since the early 80s. When the stocks markets go up for about a decade usually, they usually get pricked when the interest rates, inflation starts to rise late in the boom, and the bond rate, the bond rates go up. Now, the big thing right now, which is extremely unusual, we have 6.8% inflation and rising, and the 10-year Treasury bond is yielding 1.4%. That's like a negative yield of 6-7%. So I think the Treasury bond keeps edging up. That could be the trigger, but we're just way beyond this thing.
But the Fed knows this, right? So won't they do everything in their power to avoid a stock market crash? This is what they've been working so hard to avoid. They've been pumping. Why would they just put their guard down?
You got to remember, there's a lag to everything. Monetary policy lags about 18 months in its real effect. And so they've been forced to start to taper off. And what I keep telling people, you got to understand addictions, you got to understand bubbles. They're both the same thing. Something blows up, it takes exponentially more to keep a bubble or an addiction going. And all it takes is just pulling back. You don't have to stop the stimulus, just less stimulus. And then no stimulus is all it takes at some point. So now they're forced to get a little more tight. Well, if they're going to decide, if they pull back and immediately get easing quickly, it's going to look like they're panicking. So now that they're in a tightening mode slowly, it's going to take them a little while to respond and go the other way. And in that time, again, remember what I said at the beginning, 2 to 3 months, every major bubble burst has happened within 3 years, and it's been from 42% to 50%. And my calculations on this one that's been so stretched, this is going to be 54% the first crash. If that first crash happens, if they just slip that long, people will lose confidence in this market. Imagine if the S&P dropped, 54% in 2 months. You think anybody believe, oh, well, they'll just print money again, it'll come back. You will not see the market come back if it crashes that much. I will almost guarantee you that. In a stock crash like this, after a major bubble, everything will go down, including utilities. It's just those sectors will go down 40 or 50%, and then the leading sectors will go down 70, 80, 90. So that's the difference. There is no safe place to hide. I have the best inflation indicator in the world. Workforce growth. No economist would think about that. Incorporating young people into the workforce takes investment in computers and trainings and offices, all this sort of stuff. That's the biggest correlated with inflation over time. Inflation has been falling since 1980, right with my indicator. It should be 2% today. And what's it at? 6.8. We'll call that 4.8% inflation created entirely out of the recent stimulus.
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race. You're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Markus Dahn, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I intend, how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Markus Dahn.